Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, March 2nd. Nice bounce back in the stock market today. I'm going to be talking about that. Oil went up to $111 a barrel, so the rally continues. I'm seeing reports of Russian crude unable to find a buyer. Deep discounts, but there are, nobody wants to touch it. Shipping companies don't want to touch it. Finance, banks, etc. As far as I know, what I read is that sanctions from hell have been applied everywhere to Russian banks, to the Russian central bank, to individuals, to commercial entities in Russia, but not to oil and energy, which I think is, again, a big show of hypocrisy. The West is very happy to sanction Russia from hell, but when it comes to the oil and the energy that the West needs, no problem, we'll keep that going. So, to me, it just is another statement of hypocrisy on the part of the West, but what else is new? Today I want to talk about fiscal flows, which surprisingly, I just ran the numbers for yesterday's daily treasury statement, and they were unbelievable. We now have a 10-day average of daily treasury withdrawals. Those are the flows, those are daily spending of 41.2 billion. 41.2 billion. This is the highest so far this fiscal year. That trends to, I believe, an 826 billion month. So we are seeing the impact of very strong IRS tax refunds. And of course, yesterday was March 1st, so we got the first of the month payments. Those include Medicare, Medicaid, military pay, veterans benefits, disability, all that stuff. The first of the month, you get these big payments. So that did skew the 10-day average higher. But still, this is by far the highest 10-day average that we have seen so far in the fiscal year. So I think given that, and it was kind of a surprise to me, we were starting to trend higher in the 30, I think I told you like the 33 billion 10-day average, but this really boosted it up. And so I think right now, even given the oil situation at 111, and I do think that's going to continue to move higher, but I think right now, with that fiscal boost, with that fiscal injection, and also when you consider the pessimism and the negativity surrounding the stock market in general, just the market psychology here is very, very negative. I think when you inject that, when you consider that big fiscal boost, I think we're going to see a continuation of this stock market rebound. And then, this is going to moderate, the fiscal is going to moderate because I've been talking about this since last month when I said you're going to get a confluence of things. You got the last month we got the quarterly interest payment, and then I said we're going to get the tax refunds, and the tax refunds were delayed, and now they're flowing into March. So you had a big concentration of fiscal last month, and I think that's going to provide a boost. You're probably going to see, I'm guessing we'll probably see economic forecasts for the first quarter to get revised up a little bit. Right now they're at about 0 growth for the first quarter. Even yesterday I was talking about my calculations with the oil. I said it's probably, the title of my video yesterday was "We are on the precipice" given the rise in oil. But now I think with this fiscal boost, we'll be able to get through this. I think we'll see some upward revisions in first quarter GDP growth. That's going to be good for the market. Now, this level of spending is not going to last. This is like, the python swallowed a pig, and the pig is moving through the body of the python. You have that bulge. It's going to get digested. We're talking about later on in March, the numbers are going to come down. April is a tax filing month, so you're going to get a big drain from tax payments, but that gets recycled back into the economy. Remember, the government runs a deficit, so when you're talking about taxation, yeah, we got to pay, we pay in, and then the money is spent back out and then some. That's what a deficit is. It spends more than it takes in. The government spends more than it takes in taxes. It's no fun to pay taxes. You know, I'm definitely in that camp. I know it hurts to write those checks, but what are you going to do? You know the old saying, the only thing we can rely on is death and taxes. The only thing, you know, the only certainty are death and taxes. On a more disturbing note, I cannot believe how the conversation about the U.S. and NATO instituting a no-fly zone over Ukraine is really starting to gain traction. Now, let me say that this is still a minority view, but I'm starting to see this percolate up into, I would say, you know, to very serious people, to serious people higher up on the policy level. You have, you know, people in Congress who are now talking about this. You have a lot of, I think, sentiment in the public that this is something we ought to do. The Biden administration, and I think the Pentagon has already confirmed what Biden has said, that we're not going to institute a no-fly zone. But you know how these things go. I mean, very often we see when there's a broad public consensus on something, it starts to take hold into policy. And then we see that broad consensus play out as actual policy. Now, in my opinion, a no-fly zone over Ukraine, that's the start of World War III. That's potentially, and I think that's a very high potential, a nuclear confrontation, which will end up to be the annihilation of the human race. I mean, this is a very scary proposition, and it is being spoken about, again, by some serious people, you know, latching on to this and talking about this as something which is doable and a reality without any consequences other than to Russia. And I just find this like insane. This is insanity. The idea of, you know, NATO and US aircraft shooting down Russian planes or destroying their military convoys, blowing them up, and thinking that there will not be a response, which I think won't even be proportionate. It will be an escalated response on the part of the Russians. I mean, Putin said it. He said, if you try to interfere with what we're doing here, and at this point, I think we got to take everything this guy says seriously. And he said, if you try to interfere here, you're going to suffer consequences that you have never experienced before in your history. Those were, I think, pretty much his exact words. And I absolutely believe he means business on this. And we're talking about nuclear Armageddon. And it's very, very frightening to see people in positions of power, in positions of policy, to talk about this nonchalantly. Like, yeah, we ought to go ahead and do this. You know, this is not Iraq. This is not Syria. This is not Libya, where these countries have no capability of responding back anywhere near the proportion of how we can hit them. This is a totally different ball game. We're talking about a serious, and extremely dangerous proposition here, which is being, again, discussed by people at high levels of policy. Thankfully, it's still a minority view. But like I said before, when the public perception of something, or when the public embrace of something really gets to some, you know, threshold, it can influence the direction of policy. And I think a lot of people, at least what I'm reading on social media and what I'm hearing, a lot of people are for this. as if there will be no consequences whatsoever and it'll be a 1, 2, 3 easy done deal. That's not going to be the case. It's not going to be how it works out. So, I mean, keep your eye on developments here. And unfortunately, if they do decide to do something, I mean, it's too late for all of us to, change our situation and get out of harm's way. I think when that decision is made, if it's made, and hopefully it's not, and they go ahead with something like that, I mean, good luck. We're all doomed. It's just absolutely crazy. Anyway, let's put that aside. Let's talk again. Let's focus just solely on markets. Again, let me repeat, very big fiscal, biggest fiscal so far this the fiscal year. 41 billion 10-day average of flows. That trends to 826 billion for the month. That is enormous. And that's what I always talk about. You cannot go against that. That is very powerful. Even with oil at $111, yeah, that is a drag. There's no question about it. But like I said yesterday, for every $10, you're looking at a 14 billion loss in income that flows out to the foreign sector. But when you're pumping in 826 billion, that 14 billion, doesn't really play much into the situation. So it's bullish right now. All right, everybody, that's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.